So, picture this. One of the biggest economies in the world suddenly gets hit with a massive trade barrier. What do? Do they try to negotiate? Do they retaliate? Or do they use it as a catalyst to completely reshape their own future? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
And it all kicks off with one big question. How on earth did a 50% tariff suddenly get slapped on goods from India? What actually happened here?
Yep, it all comes down to this one single number, 50%. And let's be clear, this wasn't some minor tweak or a small adjustment. We're talking about a major economic shockwave. So let's get into exactly how we got to this point.
Okay, so first up, the tariff shock itself. What exactly went down in August of 2025?
So here's the crucial detail. This thing didn't just appear out of thin air. There was already a tariff on the books. What the US did was slap on an additional 25%. Bam! Just like that, the total tariff on Indian goods shot up to that staggering 50% mark. You know, a move that big, it absolutely demands a response.
And that response came, and it came fast. Suddenly, all eyes were on India's leadership. Everyone was waiting, wondering, what are they going to do in the face of this massive challenge?
And this is what they heard. This one quote from Prime Minister Narendra Modi really set the tone for everything that followed. India will not bow to any external pressure. You know, that's not just a nice-sounding line for the news. It's a powerful declaration of intent. It basically said the strategy wasn't going to be about compromise. It was going to be about looking inward for strength.
And look, this wasn't just talk. That statement was immediately backed up with real action. We saw a huge new push for the Make in India initiative, a nationwide call for something called Atmanirbharta, which basically means self-reliance. And top government officials were immediately mobilized to turn all these big ideas into actual policy.
Okay, so it's one thing to have a defiant stance, right? But how do you actually turn that into a workable national strategy? Let's dive into the nuts and bolts of India's plan for self-reliance.
Well, the approach was super methodical and really fast. Step 1, get all the key players in a room. We're talking the budget ministry, other top officials. Step 2, their job was to create brand new policies designed specifically for domestic protection. And finally, step 3, implement those policies and roll out protection for the most important parts of the economy. So, who were these policies really for? Well, first, farmers, the absolute backbone of the economy. The idea was to make sure they're stable and protected from import pressure. Then you have small industries, giving them the breathing room they need to grow without getting crushed by foreign competition. Of course, the entire manufacturing sector got a boost to ramp up domestic production. And they even focused on key export areas like textiles and gems to protect those traditional high-value industries. Now, at the very core of this whole strategy is this one really powerful idea, Atmanirbharta. And it's so much more than just making things at home. Think of it as a deeper philosophy. It's about building up India's internal economic muscle. The goal is to be strong enough to handle exactly these kinds of external shocks, whether it's a tariff today, a supply chain crisis tomorrow, or, whatever else the world decides to throw at you.
Okay, so we've got the shock and we've got the strategic response. But what does all of this actually mean, for the big picture? Let's zoom out for a second and really think about the long-term implications here.
And this is a huge shift in direction. There's no other way to put it. For a long time, the focus was all about plugging into global supply chains and growing through exports. The new game plan? It's all about building strong, resilient domestic supply chains and powering growth with a strong internal market. It's basically about creating an economy that, when push comes to shove, can stand on its own 2 feet. So, as we start to wrap this up, what are the big takeaways? First, this wasn't just a panicked reaction. It was a calculated, strategic pivot. Second, the end goal here is resilience. It's all about future-proofing the Indian economy. Third, that tariff shock really pushed Make in India from just being a policy goal to being the absolute heart of the national economic strategy. And finally, when you boil it all down, it's about protecting the country's own producers and its own workers. And that leaves us with one last, pretty epic question to think about. In Hindu mythology, the Brahmastra is like the ultimate weapon, something that's totally unstoppable. So the question is, will this supercharged Make in India movement, born from this intense trade conflict, prove to be India's Brahmastra, its ultimate economic weapon to secure the future? I guess only time will tell.